I want to welcome you once again to this channel for Teacher Ivan. Today we are discussing submathematics, of course, the competence based. This is normally in Senior 5. So we are discussing this topic of descriptive statistics, and we are asking all of us to please subscribe. Subscription is very important because that's how we know that we're doing a good job. People are there watching, people are there observing. So whenever you watch something from here, I request us to always subscribe, to like the video, because that shows that you are really watching and enjoying and learning. And also you can share to others to make sure that they learn more about the different things on this channel. So today we want to learn about descriptive statistics. Mainly, this descriptive statistics will be talking about the science of organizing and collecting data, organizing data and analyzing data. You've seen people who come to villages asking about data, like even this national ID issues where they come asking for your age. So they go on collecting for the whole village, and then they start saying, in this village we have this number of youths. You see, they have collected data, then they start organizing. They say now the youths are 20%. The elder people like this, the lame are like this. So people in the everyday time, they collect data, organize it, and then analyze it. When you're going back to school, you may have to give your parents a certain budget. So you go and collect the prices you want to use on that budget, organize them, and then provide your budget afterwards. So in mathematics here, the data is going to mean raw facts, or what we call raw numbers. Just numbers. We're going to work with numbers since this is mathematics. This study is applied so much in research, in your tests. If you do a test and we check and you say, hey, there's been a range, people have done very well, the whole class has failed, the whole country has been able to pass this subject. They check via the study, by the application of the descriptive statistics. Now, the first thing we shall study about, because you've said data is important, so let's talk about these things called data. If really data is important, let's talk about those things called data. So we shall talk about the first kind of data, which we call the ungrouped data. When we talk about ungrouped data, we mean that data is plain. That's what is important. That data is plain. What does that word plain mean? It means it has no groups. You've seen these groups in O level. Guys like 25 to 29, 24, 2024. Those are groups. But such data is not data which has groups. And such data is also not distributed. It is not distributed. The word distributed means that it has no frequency column. For example, look at this data here. Such data here is not, allow me change this slightly. Such data here is not having any frequency, because we shall see the frequencies come about. Frequencies normally show us the number of a certain item considered. But now here we simply have a list of data. Data has no groups, it's just a list of data. We're going to look at other types of data, and then we shall see what groups are and what the distribution is. Now that takes us to our next type of data, which is called the ungrouped but distributed. Please, if I'm moving very fast, you can pause the video and then take it back a little bit, and then you observe the things clearly. Ungrouped but distributed data. Now this one is also plain. It has no groups, but now we are seeing a new thing. It is distributed. It is what? Distributed. So that means that it has a frequency column. Now, for example, the frequency means the number of times an item appears. For example, let's use this example here. You observe the values we had at first. If you can go back here slightly, So I'm using these values. If you're there, you can even just copy them down, because you're going to use them in the next type of data. Because from this ungrouped and undistributed, I can get the next kind of data called ungrouped but for it does not have this word and, it is distributed. So for example, you can come here and see. Now what we are calling distribution is this column of frequency. Now we can see, I believe we've copied the other values. If you have not copied them, please go back the other a minute back, and then you copy those values. So you observe in the values you have there in the listed list, which I was talking about, ungrouped and undistributed. We have 10 with frequency 2. That means there are 2 10s in the list of data. 12 also has frequency 2. That means there are 2 12s in the list of data. There should be 113, 115, 120, 422s, 223, and then 234s. So when data is like this, organized in such a table with frequencies shown, then this is the second kind of data called ungrouped. You observe here there are no groups, they're simple numbers, but it is distributed. That's the second kind of data. You know, all these kinds of data are going to pose different ways of calculating the mean, the mode, the variance, the different measures we shall talk about that help people analyze data. Then we can talk about the last type of data, which is called a grouped and distributed. Such data is grouped into what we call the classes. Now the classes can be of 2 types, the class limits or something called the class boundaries. Now, like these ranges you've seen in O-level. Now such data, which is called grouped and distributed, it has to be distributed. That means it has a frequency column as per the group. For example, we are considering this data still the one you copied previously there. So when you check that data, we want to group and distribute these values. So this is done by using something called a class limit. If you're going to group and distribute any values provided, you need to use what we call a class what? A class limit. Tell your neighbor class limit. So the class limits have they have 2 parts. They have what we call a lower limit and then an upper limit. A lower limit will be that first value in the range, and then the upper limit is the last value in the range. So before even I go on, consider this. You see here, this one here is the lower limit, and then this last value is the upper limit. So there is a range from 10 to 19. That means if I have any values, you observe here, that are in the range from 10 to 19. Do I have any? Yes, I'm seeing I have 10. I have 10 here, I have 12. So all those ones, as long as they are in the range from 10 to 19, I'll group them under that class. Now, from 10 to 19, there is a certain number here, which we want to call the class limit range. How do I get to know that I'm using this certain class limit range? That means you should talk about something called a class interval. A class interval. You know, the class interval is here. Class interval will be the range. How do I know that from this starting number, where do I end? I should have something called a class limit range, or what I call a class interval, which has a symbol I. So this I, if I'm finding it, I'll get the upper class boundary. In this case, it is the 19 minus the lower class boundary, which is the 10, and then I'll add there a 1. This is a ready-made formula. If I want to get the interval which I'm going to use, this is how I get it. There are questions that will give you the interval, and then they tell you using the interval and using that lower limit, find out the last value. So you have to know really, how do I deal with this? And in many cases, as per this curriculum, you're the one to create your own interval. So you have to know, how can I determine a good interval? And if I'm given that already with the class limits, how do I determine the interval? The interval is this one, because you're going to find that in some calculations, like when you're going to define the median or the mode or the quartiles, you have to understand the value of I. You have to have it because it's part of the formula. If you don't have it, then you may not be efficient in calculating. So that's why now we introduce this and say, please, we need to understand this right now, that we can get the interval by getting the upper class limit minus the lower class limit. The answer we get, we add there a 1, and the answer is finally our class interval. Now this takes us to our next page, where we're going to do what we call we're going to now put the ranges here, and then we do the frequencies. So let's do that all together. Let's do that all together. Here, allow me to do some escape here. So when you come and check here now, we are going to do, let me just extend this a little bit. So I want to group this data here. This is what I want to group. I want to group it into this table. Now we are saying that our first class is going to be that one, with the lower interval being 10 and then the upper limit being 19. So we shall just have to get this, and we bring it first here. That is 10 to 19. We shall get such a range. Now, how do I get to know the next range here? You see, there is a simple way. Yeah, we've been able to find the class interval here by getting the upper limit minus the lower limit, which is 19 minus 10. I think this you get 9, then plus the 1 as per our formula in the previous minute back. So if I get that 9 plus 1, I'll get the 10. This is my class interval. Now I want to use the class interval to determine, I want to use the class what? The class interval to determine the next class here. How do I do that? I'll simply get this class interval 10, and I say this 10 here plus this 10, that is 20. So 20 is my next lower limit. 2. Now let me get 19 plus this 10. What do you get? You get 29. This is a simple of getting these classes without thinking about the class interval so much. So the next class would be 20 plus this 10, which then becomes a 30. And then the other is 29 plus 10, which is becoming 30, 39. Are we there? It becomes a 30, a 39. So now the frequency, we want now to do the frequencies. We are going to look for values that lie from 10 to 19. So number 1, I'm seeing here, excuse me. So I'm seeing this trade-off. This trade-off here is part of the range from 10 to 19. That is 1. Is this also in the same range? Yes, same range. That is 2. You can normally cancel these up. You can just cancel them when you're done using them. That you are sure that if you cancel this, you won't count it again. You cancel that, you won't count again. So in the range of you're following the range of 10 to 19. Which values are there? We have 1, we have 2, we have 3, we have 4, we have 5, we have 6, 7, 8. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 values are in the range from 10 to 19. So you can just come here. You can always just come here and you see you've obtained 8 values. That means in the range 10 to 19, when I look at my data, there are only 8 values in that range. So I have a frequency there. Now I can come to 20 to 19. 20 to 19, still look. Now, it is 2029. Yeah, it is 2029. 20 up to the 29. Look for values that are in this range. We have this 20. That is 1. Then we have 2. See that? I think they are done in this line. 3 here, 4 there, and then 5, and then 6. So I'll come and put it there in my table that I have 6. Then I go to the range of 30 to 39. 30 to 39, I'm seeing it is only 1. It is only 1. So I don't need to go and create other ranges like 40 to 49 because I don't have any values that lie in that range. So I don't focus on that because I don't have any values falling in that range. So now we have constructed our what we call distributed, because it has frequency, and grouped data. So this data in this table here is now grouped and distributed. That is the third kind of data we normally talk about. So we've talked about that clearly. Now we can come here to our data types. This is what we have learned. We have learned these three groups of data. I think you've been reading in class. So your main idea is understand them. We shall have a quick review or test about them. So ungrouped data is here, undistributed data is also here. The grouped data is also what we've talked about. So mind that we're going to talk about these in details as we talk about other characters like the mean, the mode, the median, the quartiles. We're going to talk about those other there. You know, after collecting the data, you have to analyze and make it of sense. That introduces in the mean, the mode, the quartiles, the variance, the standard deviation. Yeah, this is A-level, so you learn more things and new things. Now, which tasks should you have to do right now? Number one, like the video. Like the video, just like the video. Then number two, ask any question in the comment section. Now, this one is not a must. If you have any question, please ask. Lastly, subscribe to the channel. This is very important. Even if you downloaded the video and you have been watching it offline, please just go back to the channel and subscribe. I told you this one encourages us to know that someone is watching and they are learning. Otherwise, we want to tell you that up next we shall be talking about analyzing data using the mean, the median, and the mode. That will be our next video. Tune in next time because this now is the end. Thanks for watching.